I want to thank you for tuning in to this live presentation about good and evil. Okay? Now, we already know in the Holy Bible that in the beginning, God made men, women. He created both. They were called Adam, right? In this time, after God had created them, He put them in the garden and He gave them quite vivid and clear instructions that they were not to eat from the tree of good and evil. Okay. So this was very clear. And so I tend to hear a lot in the word when I get a revelation. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's been there the whole time. It's been there the whole time. And I didn't really pick up on it till whenever I get the revelation. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, that was there the whole time. The fact that good and evil exist was there before the dawn of time, but the fruit, to have the fruit of good and evil, is very detrimental to our spiritual health. I know there's a word that says, in James, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that says, make sure that you don't let evil communication come from your mouth. So to have the good and the bad stuff, blessings and cursings, they should not come out of the same spigot. Like fresh water and salt water, can it come out of the same spigot? We want to make sure that our communication is the same all the time. What's communication? Communication is the way that we live, the way that we walk, the way that we appear to others should be consistent. So that's why in James, he was saying, don't let evil communication come out of your mouth. Don't let it be said that you're being good and you're being bad at the same time. Like, that just doesn't really pass the fact check of who you are as a person. Who you are as a person is gonna show up and become your reputation, right? So what happened that brought me to this conclusion is that I was watching some shorts, some YouTube shorts, and all of a sudden there's a short in the Manny show where dude is at a funeral and they start eulogizing the person, the sister, in the show. And so during the eulogy, they're saying all these things about the person. And Manny, or whoever, playing in the Manny show, I don't even know his real name, but he's like looking and saying, that don't sound like the person, right? Hey, Remington, that doesn't sound like the person. What's going on? And then they do a boom, the sound effect of like, wait, hold up. That's not that person. That they are not all sweet all the time, right? And every time that eulogy is spoken about the dead person, they're like, oh, see, that ain't right. That is not right. So that's where I'm getting at as far as your communication, who you are as a person, how you represent yourself. Let it be consistent. So when somebody has something to say about you, it's the same thing throughout your entire life. That's why it's so important that we watch how we behave in this life, because it's important. Your communication is very important for who you are as a person. Like like I could say I used to be like this, and I used to do this, and this is how I used to be. But as you get to know more people and people get to know you, it should be said that, oh, I never imagined this was how this person was, because they were always sweet to me. They will always seem like a good person to me. So good should always be the at the forefront of who you are, right? Who you are as a person should be kind, all the fruits of the spirit. If you're steady talking about people, I'm doing good, Remington. Thanks for asking. If somebody is steady wondering what type of person you are, it's because number one, they haven't spent enough time with you, or two, they might know you from who you used to be, right? So that's why, it could be a little problem with good and evil, because we are who we are right now. But then again, there is a backstory, right, on who you used to be. Who you used to be might be different than who you are now, especially if you're a saint. Because every saint was a sinner, and every sinner has a potential to be a saint. So that's the problem with good and evil, because there is a division. There's a division between the good and the bad. When Adam and Eve ate of that tree, they was like, okay, now we know good and evil. So now in this world, we know good and evil. So it's not something separate from anybody's life. Everybody has a little bit of both, right? Nobody can say, oh, I've been without sin. Hey, Gecko, how you doing? So nobody can say that they've been without sin, right? So it doesn't matter who you are. You're going to have a little bit of good, and you're going to have a little bit of evil. But when you are being eulogized, do you want somebody to be like, no, that ain't them? You want them to know that who you are said to be is who you are. Who you are is very important. Your reputation is going to precede you, even on your deathbed, even at your funeral. So it's important to know that, reputation is everything. And you need to be either on one side or the other. It shouldn't be no in between. That's why God said, make the tree good. Why would he say make the tree good? Because he wants the same thing to be coming out of you, the same fruit to be coming out of you all the time. Not just some of the time, but all the time. That's really all there is to it. Always being consistent. Always staying true to who you are and your personality. Your personality should be always the same. So whether mama say it or some stranger say it, they should both be saying the same thing about you. Amen. So that's really all that I wanted to jump on here and say. I hope y'all doing good. I hope y'all having a blessed day. And man, I tell you, it's a trip. We knowing good and evil, it's not something light that you could, just say, hey, it is what it is. And I think a lot of times people say they set in their ways. If you're set in your ways, let that way be good. Let that way be positive, right? Like, you want to hear something about somebody, you want it to be like, oh, they always giving. They always been a giver. As long as I known this person, they always been like this, right? So that's what you want to precede you no matter what. You want a good rapport. Amen. Not just, doing things for show, or doing things, sometimes, and then behind closed doors, a different way. Okay. So, hey, you tell me if you ever been to, um, like a funeral, and somebody saying one thing about you, and, well, not you person, they saying about that person, but then you know them to be a different way. You know, that's kind of crazy. Um, I haven't been to enough funerals to really say that at all, but I've been watching these YouTube shorts, and I'm like, what? Is that really true? That people can, you know, be said, don't let nobody come eulogizing you if they don't even know you. I'll say it, put it like that, because if somebody's eulogizing and they're saying stuff that's contrary to who you are, then that could make other people like, yeah, is that really them? That don't sound like them. Case in point, I did watch my dad's funeral, right? Because I wasn't close to my dad. I didn't grow up with my father or anything like that. But they sent me the video of his funeral. So as I'm listening, so yeah, I could probably, relate that as I'm listening to him. Oh, he was always a nice person. He was always doing good for people and stuff like that. Well, yeah, then I start to think, well, where was he? Why was he not in my life? If he did so much good, where was he at? Why was he missing? Why he didn't think enough to love me or care about me the way other people are talking about him? You know, where is the disconnect in a person? So sometimes it's even good for you to go back to a person that you might have disappointed in your life, to go back to them, apologize, and do well, especially if you're a changed person. If you have changed the way you are as a Christian, and you are no longer a certain way, then you need to go back to the people that maybe you had disappointed. You might need to go back and tell, hey, I used to be this way, and golly, I can't believe man, maybe you can believe it because we all been somewhere. But if you believe that you have changed and you see things differently, you should go back to that person. Say to that person, hey, you know what? I disappointed you. And I'm not that type of person anymore. And I want you to know that I'm sorry. Sometimes it's good to go back and apologize and make amends if you have been a certain way. And that way, from then on, you could be consistently one way. That's my little bit of advice, because when you're with a person and you see them one way and they might have disappointed you, you got to go back and fix it. Even if you're not going to continue in a relationship with them, it's good to at least clear the air. Have closure. Show people and reestablish a good rapport. You should always establish a good rapport, because good and evil should not coexist together in one house, like in one person, in one body. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't be cussing people out and then saying nice things at the same time. Doesn't that make sense? You shouldn't be good in one sense and then bad in another sense. I think that just makes sense. If you see it another way, put it in the chat. If you see that it should be both ways, no, you shouldn't be cussing one person out 1 minute and then being nice to another person. It just doesn't go together. They don't go together. Those two things don't go together. Now, you could be giving constructive criticism, right? But that doesn't mean that you're being mean or spiteful or vindictive against another person. It just means you have an opinion. Everybody has an opinion, right? And that should not determine a person's character. Is their opinions, right? Some people might call them judgments, right? Being, and you should be careful not to judge people. You should be careful just to, speak things in love, and especially speak things the way God says they are, not necessarily what you think, because what the difference between an opinion and a fact is that it's biased, towards one way. So don't be biased. Just approach things through a clear and understood perspective. Understood being like wise and knowledgeable, and say, okay, well, there are good and bad in everybody. So when somebody's speaking good about another person, yes, you should agree, especially when you know that there's good and bad in everyone. That reminds me of a song. Who sing that song? There is good and bad in everyone. Was that Stevie Wonder? Learn to live, learn to give each other what we need to survive. Together alive, ebony and ivory. I think, yeah, that was Ebony and Ivory. Don't get me to lie, because I don't know. I'm not sure who sang that song, but I think Stevie Wonder did sing it at one point in time. Maybe more than one person sang that song. Yeah. But I like that song, and that helps you to know that we can live in harmony. We can have, I guess, an idea that good and bad exists, but then our good should precede us. Amen. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I love y'all, and see you next time.